Gold Rusher is a classic aero mine train located at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. Despite the fact that it's not too fast, not too tall, and not too thrilling, Magic Mountain would not feel the same without this coaster. It opened in 1971. It was an opening day attraction. So Gold Rusher is definitely on the older side, and as we'll get to, that is definitely noticeable in some parts. But for a ride that's been operating this long, I think it's running pretty well. Gold Rusher has 2,590 feet of track, a top height of 70 feet and a top speed of 35 miles an hour, and this is definitely a terrain coaster. You wind your way around the hillside and through the trees on the right side and center of the park. When you walk in, hang a right, past the Screen Punk section, and go through the DC Universe area of the park. Here, you'll find Gold Rusher past this area on the left side of the pathway. If you hike a little farther, you'll find the pathway leading up to Ninja, and if you go a little bit farther than that, you'll find the entrance to the log flume. Gold Rusher obviously came before any of those other major coasters that you passed on the way there. Gold Rusher was one of two coasters when Magic Mountain opened back in 1971. If you're interested, the other opening day coaster is Magic Flyer, the park's smallest coaster by far. It's still operating to this day. One of the things that makes Gold Rusher feel on the older side is its trains. They have 4 trains, but I'd be surprised if this coaster ever operates with more than 2. This attraction has 30 passengers per train, 2 people across, 5 cars per train, 3 rows per car. The trains themselves have limited padding. This isn't a huge issue. After each cycle, the ride operators have to push a foot pedal to unlock the restraints for each car. This does slightly slow down ops, but this coaster never really has that big of a line anyway from what I've seen, so it's not a huge issue. For those interested, these are single position lap bars, but don't get too excited, there's no airtime to be found here. Gold Rusher starts out with a little dip out of the station and a turn to the left. Then you'll pass by all the trains that aren't in use. Depending on when you're there, this could be a lot. When I visited this past spring, crowds weren't terribly heavy, so they were running 2 trains. From here, you turn to the right and ascend your first of 2 lift hills. This takes you up to a little tunnel. You pass through this and there's no theming to look at. Then you dip down and dip to the left into your first drop. This isn't a huge drop. In fact, don't expect any big drops on this ride, but it does give you a little bit of speed to go through this right-hand turn that gives you a very nice view of full throttle. On that note, that's one of the things Gold Rusher does best. You get some awesome views, both because you're going through the trees, but also because you're going under and around other roller coasters at the park that have been built since. From here, you pop up into Lift Hill number 2. There really isn't much ride time between Lift Hill 1 and Lift Hill 2, but that's okay. You have some speed going into this lift, so you ascend it quickly. When you reach the top, you level out for a couple of seconds before dipping down into your second drop. You cut through some trees, and underneath, Superman escaped from Krypton. Watch out if you're riding this coaster while Superman is cycling, because it is going to be really loud going underneath there. Superman is one of the loudest coasters in the world. In 1970s aero fashion, you pop up a little bit awkwardly into this mid-course brake run. From my experience, this doesn't really slow the train down. Then you take another left-hand turn. You then navigate a couple of slower right-hand turns along the hillside, and then approach the best part of the ride, the final helix. Despite the little drops that came earlier, I'm guessing this is where you reach your top speed of 35 miles an hour. This is the only time in the ride where I really feel a little bit of speed, to be honest. I appreciate how the best element is saved for last. Then you pop up into the brakes and into 2,590 foot long coaster. There are not any extreme elements on Gold Rusher, that's for sure. Even though the Helix is a nice finale, there is nothing that's going to lift you out of your seat or make you gray out or anything like that. This is a family coaster and a nice stepping stone addition from the park's kiddie coasters. As such, it definitely has a place in the park. Let's talk about smoothness. Gold Rusher is 53 years old, and as I said earlier, in some ways it's showing its age. Now, I wouldn't say that Gold Rusher is rough, exactly. I would say it's more on the janky side. As mentioned a few minutes ago, these aren't the most comfortable trains you'll ever ride in, so some of those janky transitions are a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not anything too bad, especially considering its age. Gold Rusher on straight track runs pretty smooth. It's just those turns and some of those side-to-side transitions that kind of joss you about. In general, this coaster is fine in the smoothness department. I've ridden many coasters that are a lot newer that are a lot rougher. So, for Gold Rusher's final score, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. This ride is what it is. It doesn't really do anything inherently wrong, it just doesn't stack up to the other coasters at the park. I love classic roller coasters, and this definitely falls into that category. Now, how does it compare to the other family coasters at the park? Well, I think it's better than the park's 4 kids coasters. These being Speedy Gonzales Hot Rod Racers, the aforementioned Magic Flyer, Canyon Blaster, and Roadrunner, which is actually pretty respectable, but that's just a Vekoma Jr. coaster. In terms of the other family coasters, I do actually prefer it over Ninja, the Aero Suspended coaster. This might be an unpopular opinion though. That said, Revolution is where I draw the line. I think that Schwarzkopf coaster has a lot more going for it. It has a similar terrain layout, but bigger drops and a vertical loop. Revolution is great, and if you want to see my review for that coaster, then clickety-click. It'll pop up in a second. Thanks so much for watching. What are your thoughts on Gold Rusher? Let me know down in the comment section below.